Hey guys, it's Lilly May coming to you live from Las Vegas.
And LindaRose coming to you live from Maine.
We have a super cool episode planned today, and I'm so excited to get to share it with you guys.
This interview, I am so excited to share it. It was such a fun interview, and it was one that I was really interested in because I feel like the girl that we interviewed, I feel like a industry that a lot of people don't think about as an industry, and it's an industry that I feel like should be talked about more because it's an art form and something really exciting to talk about.
Absolutely. It was so interesting to get to learn more about her process. Today, we're going to be airing an interview we did with an amazing cake artist, Alejandra. Her business is so cool. Make sure to check her out on all her platforms if you don't already. We're going to go ahead and show a TikTok of her cakes before we go ahead and air her interview.
This customer reached out requesting a wedding cake, and this has got to be my absolute favorite cake request. So she started off by telling me that she wanted more of a traditional wedding cake, which is all white with floral, and the groom wanted to have a themed wedding cake. She then sends me a picture of what looked like Christmas ornaments, and one of them was a Batman and another one was Hello Kitty. And she tells me that when they first started dating, they went shopping together and they happened to buy these two figures because she really loved Hello Kitty and he loved Batman. So they bought these together and that's become their thing. So the groom wanted to go with a themed character wedding where it would be Hello Kitty and a Batman wedding cake. So after some brainstorming and seeing how the bride was just so willing to give up the creative control to her husband as far as their wedding cake, I went ahead and I gave them both what they wanted. I have always wanted to make one of those wedding cakes that you see like on Pinterest, where it's like this all white 5-tier traditional wedding cake, and then just on one tier or on one corner in the back peeking through some draped fondant is like a Spider-Man themed or a superhero theme for the husband. And this is exactly what I was going for. However, it was going to be the part that's peeking through is going to be split right in the middle, and it's going to reveal a Hello Kitty and Batman theme. I started off with 3 all-white frosted tiers, and then I put a black line right down the middle of one side. And then I added a large piece of pink fondant to one side of that black line, and then a large black piece of fondant to cover the other side of that black line. Then I just began decorating each side to match each theme. And I did use an edible image for the Hello Kitty and for the Batman logo, but everything else was made out of fondant. I want to say the part that took me the longest for this theme side of the cake would have to be those buildings on the Batman side. I did cut out the buildings on a large strip of black fondant, and then I placed that over some gray fondant, and then I cut it out all over again. Once both sides are fully decorated, I place this white fondant curtain to each side. Once both sides of that curtain are placed, I begin with the other side of the cake, which is that all white traditional wedding cake that the bride was requesting. And I start this side by using a white strip of fondant as a border for the bottom of each tier. Once all 3 tiers have that bottom border, I begin to place handmade flowers of all sizes to that white part of the cake. And I do want to include that when the bride first reached out, I had so many ideas running through my mind for what I can do with what she was requesting. I originally wanted to recreate those exact ornament figures that she had sent a picture of and have them wearing a tuxedo and a veil as cake toppers, but made out of fondant. And that's when the bride told me what her budget was and asked if I can work with her. So we did some tweaks and adjustments, and we took off a couple things, and I think what the final outcome was just ended up being absolutely perfect. The day before the wedding, the bride reached out saying that she was having a little bit of a hard time figuring out who was going to pick up the cake for her, because she then tells me that this cake was a surprise to her entire wedding party as well as a surprise to her husband. I ended up offering delivery free of charge just because I am a sucker for reactions. But she did end up paying for that delivery as well as leaving me a tip. This is the final look in full spin. I am totally obsessed with this. I hope you guys like it, and I'll be posting a part 2 with delivery and reactions.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad to be on here.
Yeah, I'm so honored to have you on. For our first question tonight, I wanted to go ahead and see if you could introduce yourself and talk to us a bit about your journey as a cake artist.
Yeah, so my name's Alejandra. I have posted that I'm in Phoenix. There was just a little bit, there's like a little city and it's Tolleson, and that's where I'm located. But I put Phoenix on, like on my big socials just because it gives people more of a idea where I am and where the location is. But yeah, so I started my cake journey about 5 or 6 years ago. I was new to the city, and it wasn't really a hobby that I intended to pick up. It was more of I had nothing to give my husband for his birthday, so I thought I'd be great at making a last minute, very detailed cake, and that just turned into what my business is now. I'm I'm very detailed, so failing at that first cake made me just want to keep trying until I perfected everything about cake.
Oh wow, that's so cool to hear. I know I'm a musician, so keeping on working on stuff is a really important message, and just never give up because you'll always get to where you want to be with enough practice.
Yep.
Absolutely. I know that getting to interview someone who does cake art is really, really cool to me because I love watching those cake art videos on TikTok. They're one of my favorite things to watch. I think they're so satisfying. And I checked out your TikTok earlier, and
Yeah.
it's so fun to watch. I don't know why watching people just make cakes and like be really good at it is it's so fun to watch to me. I'm not sure why. It's just something I picked up on and something I do every day. And I want to know what your experience was like when teaching yourself how to do the cake art.
Every single cake that I've made was literally like a trial and error. Like it was the first time I had ever done it, and these were cake orders. It's not like I just do it as a hobby. So every single cake order, I mean, everyone was my first time. You know what I mean? So like if a customer wanted, I don't, just with every new theme and every single new order, it was just practice and trial and error until. I mean, I'm never gonna say that I don't approve of or I don't like. So, even if I had to do the same cake 2 or 3 times before it went out, it's just honestly trial and error and just practice and practice. And I don't like saying practice makes perfect, but practice definitely makes progress.
Absolutely. For our next question tonight, I wanted to go ahead and ask what inspired you to start learning how to do cake art?
Yeah, so just like I was saying before, I never intended to do this at all. This was not where I thought my life would end up. But yeah, so we were, me and my husband had 2 small kids at the time. We're from El Paso, Texas. So the minimum wage in Texas, I believe, still is pretty low. I want to say it's like $8 an hour, $7.5. I mean, my son was only a newborn and my daughter was about 2 years old. So he was the only provider. I wasn't working. I was staying at home with them. So we were barely getting by. That we lived with my mom. So we weren't even paying rent and, stuff like that. So for us to barely be getting by, I do have an aunt and she lives here in Phoenix. Well, she lives in Phoenix, and she offered for us to come move with her. She said she had a spare bedroom because my cousin was in the Navy, so it was technically a spare bedroom. So we did. We packed up and we took her up on her offer, and the 4 of us, which me, my husband, and 2 small kids, stayed with her in one tiny bedroom. We did get a storage for all our stuff, but yeah, ultimately we stayed there for about, I want to say, up to 9 months until we saved up to get our own place. But we had just moved in with her, and my husband's birthday was the following month. So yeah, we had no money. I had no money. We only moved with like $300 in our pockets to a whole new city. So yeah, I had no money to get him a birthday gift, and I wanted to make it special. It was a new beginning, and he was working so hard for us. So I thought, hey, I can make a cake. It can't be that expensive, supplies, cake mix, eggs, oil. It's not that much. Maybe $20 it cost me at most. And we're from Texas, so I wanted to make him he's big into sports. So I wanted to do the bottom tier, like football, so Dallas Cowboys. The middle tier was basketball, so Dallas Mavericks. And the top tier was baseball, so he likes the Texas Rangers. So it was going to be this like 3-tiered Texas sports cake. And I thought, it can't be hard. Yeah, no, it took me like 8 hours, like his whole work shift. And then by the time he gets home, I'm like, don't let him see. Like it wasn't even done at all. It looked horrible.
I post the pictures sometimes, like I make TikToks about like my first cake order and stuff like that, and people are like, it was so good from the beginning, and I'm just, of course I'm a perfectionist and I don't think it was, but it was a mess to me. But then I don't know if it was another family member that said, oh, we'll just make mine, or maybe like, oh, it was my son's smash cake. When he turned 1, I made him a smash cake, and again, it was horrible. But just slowly, like I just kept practicing until I started my Facebook page, where I kind of just posted here and there, like a couple cakes for sale. And then it just, every month and every year, it just grew bigger and bigger.
Wow, that's so cool to hear about how you started out. I live in Vegas, so the minimum wage here is super low too. And I know I visited Phoenix a few times, and Phoenix is such a cool city.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and do a quick add-on question. I was wondering, have you used social media and stuff to learn how to do cake art anytime?
Yeah, definitely. So I want to say that I'm self-taught, but honestly, the internet taught me. So I would go for anything like a shoebox cake. Somebody wanted a shoebox, so I go straight to YouTube, like how to make a, you know what I mean? Like before, it is definitely before TikTok. I went straight to Pinterest for, like the fondant, like how to make a fondant giraffe, how to make a fondant like bow, like simple things like that. Pinterest and YouTube taught me, honestly.
Absolutely. I'm a mostly self-taught musician, so I've used tutorials a lot and know exactly how helpful they are.
Oh yeah. Now it must be great having TikTok, because I mean they're great. Honestly, it's great. Like it's a great platform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know, since I play sports and I'm always trying to get better at them. Watching YouTube videos is a huge part of my everyday life, especially watching, now that we're in the basketball season, watching basketball videos and tips and tricks and how to get better at free throws and stuff like that is something I focus on a lot. And TikTok has definitely helped me with some of my shooting and dribbling abilities and stuff. And TikTok is definitely a great platform for stuff like that.
Yeah, it really is. And I get messages and comments daily of how I'm such an inspiration, and I still can't, like comprehend how many followers or how many messages I get like this, like every day, that it's like, oh, it's so inspiring and you're such an inspiration. And I'm just doing what I've been doing. I just recently started hitting record and posting these videos, and it's just insane, the power of TikTok and social media.
Absolutely. For our next question, we want to know what some of your favorite cake designs, or maybe what your favorite cake you've made are.
My favorite cakes to make are definitely, I love working with floral designs. I like boho style cakes. So anything that has like fresh flowers or like an elegant look, I love making those. Not only is it easy to make, but they're just so pretty to me, and I love making those, especially wedding cakes. Yeah, honestly, I like working with floral, I would say. And fondant. I love working with fondant. And anything like, give me fondant figures to make, or bows, or anything like that. I love working with fondant.
I was looking at your TikTok earlier, and you are so talented. All your cakes look amazing.
Thank you.
And I know earlier we were talking some about custom orders, so I was wondering, what's your process like when you are doing a custom order?
Well, it really depends. Like for example, I don't know. Give me an example. Place an imaginary order.
Let me see, a Taylor Swift cake.
Okay, so the communication process is big. This is like the one kind of business that, it does require like a one-on-one conversation with the customer. They can't just like fill out a form and here you go and make it for me. Here's the money. Like I definitely have to ask, well, there's different options. So you want a Taylor Swift cake? Would you like, I am big on this. A lot of people request those. And what that is a sugar sheet. So it's an edible sugar sheet, and it's printed on, it's a regular printer, but the ink, instead of the ink cartridges, you would use sugar. It's not sugar. Edible ink. So those would be the cartridges, edible ink. And then when you print it, instead of using a regular paper, you use a sugar sheet. So that's what makes it an edible image. And I'm really big on using those, not for every design, but just because, I mean, they're very helpful, especially like with little logos or things like that, just to get it exactly, perfect, as I would as I would call it. So I would ask, like, do you want to do an edible image on the top? Would you like I normally pull up examples when it's just like I'll go and do my research, like Taylor Swift cakes. I'll go on Pinterest, I'll go on Google, I'll go on Instagram, and I'll pull some different ideas, and then I'll send those out and ask, which one of these are you more leaning towards? And then once they tell me, then I'll ask them, do you want it exactly like this, or would you like me to kind of freestyle it? And from there, they'll give me the elements that they want to go with, and we'll go with that.
Wow, it was super interesting to hear about your process. I literally knew nothing about cake art, so it was super cool to learn some about it.
Yeah, I know that cake art it's very interesting to me, and I have my family is full of artists, and whenever we're doing like someone's birthday party or something, we almost immediately my grandmother makes the cake, and then we immediately give it to either my grandfather or my other grandmother, because their cake decorating skills are a lot better than ours, and with like an immediate thing that we do. And I've always been interested in cake decorating. I'm just not good at it. And I wanted to know what tips you would give to someone who's interested in doing cake decorating and kind of taking it on as a business.
Yeah, so I mean, like, definitely practice, especially piping. Once you get good, I was horrible. I have the worst handwriting. I can make like the most detailed cake, and my first 3 years do not let me do not ask for me to handwrite happy birthday, like your name, because I had the worst handwriting. I couldn't do it. I'm finally decent at writing, cursive happy birthday something. The number one question that I get asked is, how do I get my cake so I like straight? I get a really crisp edge, and everyone asks, how do I get that? The number one tip is, especially with buttercream, because that's what I mostly work with. I do a thin layer of crumb coat on my cake, and then I stick that in the freezer. So the freezer, honestly, is I couldn't have a cake business without a freezer, not just a fridge, but a freezer. So I crumb coat the cake, stick that in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and then when I take it out, that's when I frost it, and it just leaves a smooth finish. I put that back in the freezer, and that's when I cut off. I don't know if I think I posted on my TikToks a few times, but that's when I cut off all of the extra like edge on top so you smooth it and it leaves that like extra stuff on top. I don't smooth that. I put that in the freezer. So when I take it out, I get a sharp knife and I just cut everything off, and it leaves like the smoothest finish. And since it has been frozen, it's so easy to cut, and it leaves like the smoothest finish. So that alone took me like a year to perfect. And I mean, nobody taught me that. That was more of just like trial and error, like I said.
Wow, there's so much great advice and insight in that response. I know I'm terrible at baking, but I have so many great memories with my mom and my sister in the kitchen. So I really enjoyed getting to talk to you and learning some about your process and journey with cake art. My mom actually got me a calligraphy book for Christmas when I was like 9, and I've just been using it since then. And now I can write like cursive in any font, but I could not imagine trying to do it with like frosting and stuff. So
I know. And I'm really good at like replicating something. Like if I'm looking at, whether it's a pen or a cake, if I'm looking at something and I have to recreate that, I'm really good at doing that. But don't give me a pen and paper and say, here, draw, like a person riding a bike. Like, no, I can't do that. I'm really bad at it.
Yeah, so for our next question, I wanted to ask you, what is the best part about cake decorating to you?
I mean, I've always been creative, and I genuinely enjoy it. It's relaxing to me. It's really soothing. I would say that's the best part. I mean, doing something that I love to do and getting to do that every day.
Absolutely. It's important to have creative outlets. They're really helpful.
I very much believe in like having a creative outlet as a coping mechanism and kind of as a way to express yourself as well. And to kind of switch gears a little bit, you have your own business, cake decorating business, and I wanted to know how you kind of started that up and what was the process like for you.
So I had it was a full-time job and 2 kids, and that alone is hard. And that's when I just kind of started to, decorate cakes on the side, maybe like 20 orders a month. And then that turned into, 40 orders a month. And just like slowly, like I said, every month I would get more booked and more booked. And eventually I had to request, I fought so hard to go from part-time to full-time. And my boss finally did. I worked at a school, so she went to district office and requested I move to be full-time. It was like so hard to get that done for me. And not even a year later, I had to request to move back to part-time because cakes were just taking over and I couldn't do it. So once I moved to part-time, I stayed that way for about a year until finally I created a TikTok and it blew up. And yeah, I get about 10 orders every single weekend now. So yeah, just navigating through, you know, a full-time job, a part-time job, 2 kids, like I have dogs, until finally my husband said, you know what, like I got us, I got the bills, like it's time for you to, you know, follow your dreams. Clearly it's your calling and you're in demand. So he encouraged me to quit my job. He said he's got us, he's got the bills. So I did, and I started a kind of like a list on my notes on, you know, what's happened, like an update, I guess, what's happened since then. So kind of like a year update. I quit my job and everything that's followed since, and it's just been incredible.
Wow, that is so amazing to hear. I know nothing about having a business or something, but I know I've been helping my sister with managing her art business that she has, and I'm always looking for more tips and advice. So I was wondering if you had any tips about owning a business.
Yeah, so especially with, I can only speak for, you know, cakes, but definitely set boundaries, set rules, set policies. And post them. I mean, even if you just work off of Instagram, definitely have those posted, you know, on your highlights, or make a post about it on your bio, something, you know, like create policies, because you never know, especially with cake. In the beginning, I did have one customer and she sent her nanny to pick up a cake order, and it was a 2-tier cake. I was so proud of it. What was it? It was like an oil rig. Her husband worked for he worked in Texas. I'm from Texas. So I'm like, oh yeah, we're, you know, big on oil rigs. So it was like a Texas flag, and it was like I made a fondant oil rig with like oil. I was so proud of it. And yeah, she sent her nanny to pick it up, and she was pretty. She was like 20, and she put it in the back seat. And then I get a picture the next day, and it was completely like destroyed. And she wanted a full refund, and I said, well, no, that was before I had policies in place. And yep, she totally. I think at the time I used like some software, and she asked for a refund, and she said that she did not make the purchase, and we went back and forth, and I said, no, like you left with it, and I mean, it completely was out of my hands. I made what you asked for, and it was in one piece, and she would not let it go, and she finally requested her refund, and then I ended up fighting that. But I would just say policies. Now I have them posted on my, you know, on my website, and I go deep in detail for every policy, you know, for cancellations, for to postpone a cake order, for, you know, damages, deliveries, anything like that. Just I would say be clear on your policies from the beginning, because you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I think that having policies is really important. And I think that especially if you don't have those boundaries set in place or those policies set in place, it can lead to larger problems in the long run. So I think that having those is really, really important.
Yeah. And also when it comes to, you know, like a deposit and final payment, before I would require half of the total as a deposit, and then the other remaining balance due at pickup. And again, it's a learning experience. So there's always that one customer. It's a nightmare, but it's a learning lesson. But yeah, just definitely like policies are really important.
Absolutely. I think to end off the interview today, I wanted to ask, where can people find and support you?
So I do have a website. It's cakesbyalejandra.com, and there is like a form that you can fill out if you want to submit a request. I also have the chat box open on there, so if you it'll pop up if you want to like chat. You can also place an order on any of my socials. I'm really active on them, so if you want to go to my Facebook and send me a message there, I will respond. On Instagram as well. And on TikTok, I don't think you can DM unless I'm following you, so it's really hard. But if it's on TikTok and people comment that, like, oh, how can I find you? Just click on my socials that are linked. So Instagram, Facebook, or my website is how you can place an order.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I was so honored to talk with you some. And yeah, it was a great interview. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. And this is our first cake decorator that we've had. And we're always looking for new industries to kind of dive into. So it was really, really fun to have you on today.
Oh, thank you guys.
Add a little bit of spice.
Oh my god, my camera is a little not wide
It's
though. I
fine.
like that. She's having problems today. Okay.
Alejandra's interview was so good. I loved all of her advice too, and there was so much quotable stuff in there. It was amazing.
Yeah, I really love that, and especially since I find myself watching cake decorating videos on TikTok all the time. Like, I'm always watching them, so having someone as a cake decorator on our show was a lot of fun, and she was a really fun to interview, and I'm happy that we got to interview her.
Absolutely. Next, we're going to go ahead and do our short 5-minute news segment. Today, we wanted to go ahead and focus our news segment on the Grammys because there was a lot of record-breaking events that happened there, and we just want to take a second to go over some of them. So the first one is that Kim Petras is now the first transgender woman to get a Grammy, and it's really powerful to see everyone getting represented and getting the recognition for the work they deserve. In 2023 alone, politicians have already introduced over 120 bills that attack LGBTQ plus rights, and a lot of those bills are specifically targeting transgender people. So with all that's going on in the world right now, it's really empowering to see people like Kim getting the attention they deserve.
Something I've realized, and with Kim, it was such a great thing, and something I've realized with a lot of society and everything it's like that a lot of people forget that people who are including the LGBTQ community are human. It feels like people forget that they still have feelings and that they still are a person, and it's really sad to see that they feel the need to attack them when really they're just regular people like us, and it's not they're just everyone. There's no differences between them except for what they identify, because everyone identifies differently. And I think that it's sad that they feel the need to attack specifically transgender people, because it doesn't matter what they go by. It shouldn't matter. It should be what makes them feel comfortable, and no one should feel like they have to hide who they are because they're afraid of what might happen to them.
Absolutely, and that was a super powerful and important topic you brought up too. Another thing is that Beyonce now officially has the most Grammys of any artist. The music industry is so male-inundated. Only 22% of popular artists are females, and only 2% of music producers are females. So and not to mention how bad the gender pay gap is either. So it's really inspiring to see a female artist getting recognized for their work in spite of all the statistics against them.
Yeah, and I think a big thing with the music industry too, I think because a lot of people um, say, like we saw in comments about before, that women are equally represented in the music industry, and just because you see women in the music industry does not mean that they're equally represented. And I think that's something people need to realize, because it's like every industry, you see women in the industry, but that doesn't mean that they're equally represented or equally paid enough. That there's still the imbalances there, and people need to realize that. But congratulations to Beyonce, because that's an insanely huge win for her.
So amazing. And for the last topic of our news segment today, we wanted to talk some about the new award category at the Grammys. So they announced a new award category called the Best Song for Social Change. And this award is meant to recognize a song that responds to the social issues of this time. Iranian singer-songwriter Shervin Hajipour's song Baroye won the award this year. This song is an anthem for the women's rights protests that were going on in Iran. Hajipour was arrested after a video of Baroye got more than 40 million views. The song is so powerful, and I'm really glad to see an award at the Grammys to honor songs that had a social impact over the year. And it's also really empowering to see people talking about the events in Iran, especially because they don't get much news coverage in the US.
Yeah, and I think that is something that does need to be worked on, is news coverage, because other countries do matter, and what's going on in there does matter. And another thing, it's very exciting to see that an award was given to a song about women's rights, which was really, really fun to see because that's a huge thing that is why we're here now. So I think it's really I'm really happy, and I think it's really amazing that they did that. They added that they added that category, and then an amazing song about women empowerment one.
100%. I was so excited because I was watching the Grammys live this weekend, and I was so excited to see it. That's the end of our 5-minute news segment this week. I also want to talk a little bit about our book for this month. We're reading The Nightingale, and we also just shipped out the book for the giveaway that happened last week. So make sure you guys keep your eye out on the Orchid Times page too. We might do another giveaway for the book sometime in the future, so just keep your eye out. Our goal for this month is to get to chapter 20 and discuss halfway through the book. And I'm so excited to be reading it. It's such a good book. I started on it like last week, and it's amazing. I'm so excited to hear about any of you guys who are reading the book too.
Yeah, I started reading it online, and I just bought it. It's coming to my house now. Yeah, I read I think the first 3 chapters, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I actually just ended up ordering the book. So I could keep it because it's a really amazing book. So if you do have the chance to read it, I do recommend it.
The link is in the description, so just check it out if you're interested. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend anybody who wants to read it to do that. And our merch shop is open, and anybody who wants to get an Orchid Times hoodie like this one or something, just make sure you guys go check that out. We have mugs, beanies, hats, hoodies. It's an amazing merch shop, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, I don't have mine on right now because I literally came from practice, got my pizza, and came up here. But yeah, please, if you can, go, not only because it supports us, but it also, you get some amazing merch, and honestly, the quality is chef's kiss. It's really good, so you should definitely get it.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here today. I've had a great time. Thank you so much for all your support. Make sure to tune to Orchid Times next week so you don't miss an amazing interview with Ro, a talented singer-songwriter.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. I hope you guys have a fabulous, fabulous evening, and bye.
See you next week.